Hello everyone, it's Amy and welcome back for another Build Your Stash and Craft video. I don't know what week this is because I'm not exactly sure when this is going to get finished. This video may seem a little all over the place because as I was doing my sampling, I wanted to show you what was happening with what I was trying to do. So normally everything is done and then I start at the beginning and I show you how to do everything. But today we're going to start with, I am trying to make distress inks, faux distress oxides. I've been requested by 2 people to do that. And so I watched a video that Tim Holtz did. I'm going to try and remember to link that below so you can see how he sampled it. I'm going to try and do the same thing and see if ours turned out anything like his. So, but as I was figuring out what I was going to use for product, I thought I would come and show you what's going on, because normally at this point I'm figuring it out, then I make all of my colors in the way that I have figured out how to make it, and you don't get to see all of the fails, or the not necessarily fails but differences. So this is what we're going to do. I've started with blue, so I have our blue ink pad. When we made our ink pads, which to me, you know, they're a little comparable with the distress inks, or any kind of ink really. And so we have our ink pad, and then we are going to have our distress inks. Well, let me put this aside for just a second. And he sampled them on craft card and on watercolor paper. So I'm going to do the same thing. And this is what I wound up with. The first thing that I tried was hand sanitizer and food coloring, our gel food coloring, and number 1 that I thought was going to be the best was tempera paint. And it did not work. This is our result with the tempera paint. So this is what it looks like. We didn't get the white. The white did not mix in. And you can see it up close. The white just basically kept separated in there. And so the tempera paint didn't work. But, so it was a fail for distress oxides. But I like the looks of this, and I haven't tried it yet because I'm here to show you what we're doing. But I'm going to see what this does, because I think that this could be a cool new thing we can play with. So I'm going to set that aside. It didn't work. The next thing that I tried was white craft paint. Regular white craft paint. This is Apple Barrel Snow White. And this is what we got. And after it sat for about a half an hour, it separated quite a bit, if you can see that. I know the light is shining quite bright, but the white separated, and it did not mix quite as well as the one that I'm going to show you next, but it did mix, and this will work. This is not necessarily a fail. You may just have to kind of work your ink pad a little bit each time that you're going to use it. So this is with the white craft paint. Then the last one, and it separated also a little bit but not much. This one was made with Crayola washable kids paint that I got at the Dollar Tree. This is what we're going to use to make our distress oxides today, along with our gel food coloring and our hand sanitizer. I mixed them this time after the last time of mixing them when we made our regular pads and mixing them in the bowl and having a problem. I do have a few little lumps in here that are quite dark blue, and that is because my hand sanitizer is getting old and it had little lumps come out. So those lumps dyed themselves blue, but they don't want to work in. And they're not going to, because they're just a gel lump. But this is what we are going to use for our distress oxides, because it didn't separate as much, and it really mixed very well together. So I haven't decided what I'm going to do with this yet. So by the time that we do a few of the other colors, I will be back to show you how we're going to store it, because I'm thinking that maybe instead of on a ink pad, which it's hard to get a really good seal on an ink pad. I don't really see anybody, and I really have not checked these out a whole lot, but I don't know that people stamp with them. I think people use them for mixed media products, and if you're going to use them as a mixed media product, you don't necessarily need them to be on an ink pad. But I'll try it and I'll see maybe a smaller ink pad or something. And if we do them in an ink pad, instead of storing them the way that we have stored these ink pads, I'm going to store them in a plastic bag, sealed tight, and see if they last longer, because these dry out. Now the thing is, this was dry when I went and got it. It is no longer dry, and all I did was I put a couple of squirts of the hand sanitizer on there, rubbed it in, and now it's not dry anymore. You can see, you know, well, I don't know if you can see the color or not. Lid's blue and the ink's blue. But they come back to life. All you have to do is put a few pumps of the hand sanitizer and work it in. You might want to make sure you wear your gloves. So we have our regular ink, and now this is what we are going to call our oxide ink. And when Tim explained it, he said that Distress Oxides are a fusion of dye and pigment. So in my head, I'm saying dye, our food coloring, pigment, our paint. It's just a thought, and you're going to see the reveal for the first time because I have not even tried this yet. So we're going to find out what it's like, and then I'll be back to show you how to make it. If it works, it might not work, but we'll see. Okay, so I'm going to try it. I'm going to do them both on the same piece of watercolor cardstock. So I'm just going to, I just mixed that up so I know that it's mixed up, and I'm just going to take my sponge and get some of our Faux Distress Oxides on there. That's what it looks like. I'm going to seal that back up and then just put it on here. Okay, and then we'll take some of our ink pad and put that on there. Maybe I shouldn't try and go in circles. Maybe I should just wipe it on there straight. Okay, so there's that one. I'm going to get a little bit more over here because I put more over there. Okay, so on the whites, they're fairly close in color. This is a little lighter because it has that white background tint to it. Now, let's look at what it would look like on the craft card. And like I said, and I haven't definitely decided because I haven't tried this yet. I don't know if I have my amounts of ingredients correct yet. Might need to add a little more of something to this one. And I'm thinking, in looking at it, I need a little bit more of the kids' paint. Okay, so but there's that. Now let's go with the blue ink. Okay, so here we go with our Distress Oxides and our ink. So we are getting a difference. I think this needs to be a little bit, have a little bit more white in it to make it more like the distress stains, but you can obviously see the difference. And these were made the same way. They were made with both the ink and the Distress Oxide were both made with the hand sanitizer, the food coloring, the same food coloring, and then this one was made with a little paint in it. This one was just those two. So this is what we've come up with so far. So I'm going to stop right here. I will be back with the more tutorial part of this video where we actually go through the amounts and how we're going to do it and how we're going to store it and all of that. So I'll be back in just a second. Okay, so I am back. It has been about 2 weeks, I think, possibly even 3. But I put all this stuff in this bowl and it's just been sitting there until I got ready to start this morning. So I wanted to show you what these all turned out like after sitting for 3 weeks. I have not touched them, and I'm just going to take them out carefully so we can look at them. This is the tempera paint, and it has, again, it just stayed separated. It's even more liquidy and more solid with the paint. But the paint makes these little flecks in it. I think it's kind of cool, and I am going to play with this at some point. But we don't have time today because I think this is going to wind up being a long video. I'm trying not to. This is the white craft paint, the apple barrel craft paint, and it has definitely separated. But squishing it before, squishing it before made it go back together, and squishing it now is making it go back together. I'm still really so debating on how to store these. Now, you know, I actually was watching what do they do with distress inks or distress oxides, because I've never used them or had them or anything. And you really could almost keep them in a paper bag, in a plastic bag, or keep your sponge in a plastic bag and then just slide it out and use it and slide it back in. But when I was watching Tim Holtz do it, you know, he said they don't last forever. And he says, let's all be real. You know, we all get stuff and we're like, oh, that dried out. Well, you know, products like this, they really do dry out. So that made me feel a little bit better. But mostly, you know, I haven't found the best way to store things to keep them from drying out, although they're always still usable. Our regular ones, when they dry out, just give them a little squirt of your hand sanitizer. They come right back to life. This is the kids paint from the Dollar Tree. And if you can see that, oh, there might be just a touch of separating right here, which is where it was hanging on. It's a little darker there, but really not much at all. So I'm just going to kind of mix this up because I'm going to show you how to make I already made orange, pink, and purple. And I'm going to make yellow, and then we'll put the yellow and the blue in a container. And I'm going to make a brown one, but I'm going to make one. I don't need these. I'm just going to make one. Well, maybe I'll make the yellow and the brown. Okay, so let's do this. We need 6 pumps of hand sanitizer, full pumps. If you don't quite get 6, put in a little, you know, extra one. And I just kind of put it down towards the corner of the bag. Little bit for extra measure. Okay, and then we need 1 heaping teaspoon of the kids craft paint. It is craft washable kids paint, or not craft, I keep saying that, Crayola washable kids paint from the Dollar Tree. We need 1 heaping teaspoon of that. So I just put just kind of hold my teaspoon in the bag and just dump. I'm starting to run out. I will do the brown afterwards because I'm sure there's enough in here to do the brown. But I don't want to sit here and have you wait for me to have to wait for it to drain out of there. Alright, so we'll do the yellow. Oh, what the heck, we'll do the brown. I'm more interested in seeing how the brown looks, because that is my favorite distress ink, is the brown. And I just kind of just used my bag to kind of wipe off the spoon, so I'm not wasting any paint, because it really doesn't matter what it looks like in there. It is going to get all mixed up. And this is the easiest way to mix it. Alrighty, so this is just brown food coloring, gel food coloring, and it's starting to get even thicker than it was when we bought it. But I haven't had any problem with it mixing, and I just kind of take just a scoop of that. And the thing is that you can always add more if you don't think it's dark enough. And I'm going to just wipe that on the inside of my bag. I'm going to just grab a hold of both sides and just pull it off like that. Now everything is inside, and so I'm going to seal it without a whole bunch of air in there. Now be careful, if it's got air in it, you don't want it to pop, and no matter what, you don't want it to come open and get all over your carpet or anything. So the easiest way to do it is push the hand sanitizer up towards the paint and the food coloring. It moves the easiest. And like I said, just be very careful. I've been having a little bit of a heart attack all day, hoping that none of these open, because we just got a new carpet for under the kitchen table and it's tan. I'm like, yeah, it's brand new. I'll probably get paint on it shortly. But, you know, what's a rug good for if you have to keep it spotless? It's a rug. Ooh, I like this color. Kind of like a cocoa color. You know, if I didn't like this and I wanted it darker, I could go ahead and put more of the food coloring in there. Now you just want to make sure that whatever gets up by the little zipper gets mixed in. And then, like, see, there's a brown spot right there. And so you just want to make sure that you really, and I just really mix them good. I'm probably kind of hurrying a bit here, you know, because you're watching, and I don't want this to be too long, but just take your time. And besides that, it's actually kind of fun doing this anyways. And once you think you've got it really, really well mixed, then we're going to put it in our containers. Now, we bought the drying mat from the Dollar Tree. I'm going to kind of push this down and see if it all looks good, and it looks very well mixed. Okay, so we bought this drying mat from the Dollar Tree, and we bought a piece of felt. So what I've done is okay, you guys go lay down. I just took the lid of the containers, because this is what we're going to put our pad in. It's got a nice depth to it. It's nice and flat. I just took this, I held it up here like this and went, I'm going to cut right down this line. So then I just cut down that line, and then I just rounded the corners, cut it off right here, rounded those corners, and I had a little pad to put in there. And then I put the felt on top of that and just cut around it. And so now I have a little sponge pad and a felt pad, and they fit right in the lid just like that. Now, we got these lids because they have this rubber seal in them, and so I'm hoping that that will keep this longer. Okay, so what we're going to do is we are going to put the ink on our pad. Just open it up and put your pad in there. And then just squash it around. It's a sponge, so it is going to want to just soak that up. If you squeeze it a little bit, don't pop your bag. Just kind of give it a squeeze and let it go. That's, you know, then the sponge will like soak it up. And once it gets pretty wet, it'll soak it up even better. And so you're just going to do that. Now, when you get towards the fact where you think, okay, I'm about done, and I think I've got most of it, you know, you can kind of pat it around or whatever. Don't squeeze it, because you'll squeeze everything out of it. So just kind of like, you know, work any of that extra that you think might be in there. Just kind of work that into the pad a little bit, and then take your pad out. And now your pad is saturated, and you're just going to put it in right in the lid, just like that. And then, because we've still got some more in here, we're going to just take our piece of felt. We're going to put that in there. And just rub it around and let it kind of soak up what's left. That way we don't waste too much. Then you can also, right away, just use what's in here on a project. Just smear it around on some paper. And use it up so you don't waste any of it. But there we go. Now this is pretty empty. Okay, now we've got our sponge here. It's not quite completely covered. It's not saturated. And I'm just going to put it on there, and then I am going to push down on it, turn it over, and push down on it. And there we go. Now we have our brown. And like I said, if you don't think this is a dark enough color, then you could just add some more before you take it out like this. Add some more. Oh, there we go. That's our color. And then I got that paper towel here somewhere. So we'll do the blue too. Now the blue has sat for 3 weeks, so we'll see what the blue seems like. Okay, then I'm going to take my top, which was the bottom, put it on there, snap it shut, and hopefully those will last quite a while. If not, we'll add a little hand sanitizer to them. The only thing that worries me with those is they have paint in them. And we have our blue. What did I do with the blue? Right here. Okay, so here's our blue. Let me make sure this is, yep, this is the kids' paint. And here's another lid. Take our sponge. I'm looking in here. It looks just as liquidy, I think, as what it had looked. I don't think it really dried out much, if any. I'm just going to give it a squish. Now, this one has 2 heaping tablespoons of paint, 12 squirts of hand sanitizer, and a couple scoops of the color. And then the reason I cut it in half was because it really is kind of too much. When I did the first one was orange that I did this morning, and it's really, really juicy. It's too wet, and there's still some left in there. So, and see, I'm going to just kind of squish what's in that pad into here because that pad is so wet. So that's why I cut the recipe in half in order to fit. And I cut it exactly in half, so, you know, they are the same. But so that the amount of color I was getting would fit into our lids without being too wet. And so now I've got a little color left here. And this is going to be wetter than the rest because of how much I made. So the other, for this size lid, the 6 pumps, 1 heaping spoonful, and 1 scoop of color is pretty much, from what I think, it's the perfect amount. All right, so now we've got our colors made. Like I said, I'll make the yellow later. I'm going to turn that paint upside down. Let it start running. I don't want to add any water to it because that would change your formula. Okay, now this one is really wet. The orange is really wet. And let me just get this stuff out of the way. So we've got blue and brown. There's the others. Here they are. Pink, purple, and orange. I'm going to put them up here like that. Okay, so what do they do with Distress Oxides? They did stamp with them, but that was always the last thing that they showed with them. So the first thing that they showed with the oxides is that, get some sponges out here, but I want to start with like new sponges. I don't want sponges that have anything else on them. Okay, so pretty much the first thing that they did was just put it on paper and show what it looks like. Hold on just a second. And I did already show you the comparison between the Blue Distress ink and the Blue Distress Oxides. So I'm not going to try and pull out colors of the Distress inks and compare them to each other. You can look at the regular videos to see the comparison, or the beginning of this one kind of showed you how they compare with the blue. But we don't really need to see how they compare because they are their own entity, so we just need to see how they work. So, and I'm also going to do it on black, because when I watch the videos on what do they do with Distress Oxides, they also tried them on black. So let's see if I have enough. So I have watercolor paper, plain old craft cardstock, and black cardstock. And we'll just see how they work. So let's start with the blue. We've already done the blue, but we'll start with it anyways. The other thing that they said with the Distress Oxides is because the oxide's in there, they really pounce them very hard. You'll notice if you watch the videos. So I'm going to do that too. Probably don't have to do it as much with the blue and orange because of how wet they are. But you know, because the paint that's in there, you know, you have to get that out of the sponge and through the felt. So I think that's why they wind up being pounced quite hard. And of course, I don't know what's in theirs, but you know, this is paint that gives us the white color. Okay, so here it is on craft cardstock. Here it is on white watercolor paper. And now let's see black, because I have no idea what it's going to look like in black. And on the black, it's not showing as much as the oxides on the television, or, you know, like that I was watching on YouTube. It is still showing up, but it's not as showing up as much. The white paint in it is what makes it opaque to show up on the black. So maybe we should have added just a touch more white paint. Although now that it's drying, it's starting to show up even more. Okay, so there's our blue. Let's try the orange. See what it's like. And again, that one's really wet, so I don't have to and I'm not really like I'm not a real fussy one in like doing it all pretty. Mostly because I'm thinking this video is going to be too long. Oh, I have to watch this segment. Make sure that it doesn't wind up too long. So there's our orange. That really kind of blends in. And then put it on black. And I think with the black, with this, you have to put a little extra. The other thing that they did too was they, yeah, that one doesn't show up much at all. They dried everything with a dryer. And with me, my option is either the light or the dryer. And I think we probably right now need the light. So here is the, but this does, it does not, it really is, you know, well, of course it's a cross between paint and color because that's what we put in it. But it really is kind of cool, you know, because it has that, it kind of has the paint effect and yet it has the ink effect. So I think that these will be fun to play with. I don't think, and even in watching the videos, personally to me, I don't think I would have wanted to buy them. But I may find that I really like them and I do want to buy them. Find out at some point in time. I bet this is not gonna, of course, well, you know, why would it really show up? Because it's brown on brown. They're pretty much the same color. So there's that one. And then we'll do the pink. Well, I think that they're working out really well. You know, I mean, I don't mind the way that they're working. The one thing they say, like with your inks, if you put it on there and you got that spot, you're never going to blend it out. But with these, if you work at it, just kind of work it in, it will blend right in, back in with the other color pretty nicely. You know, the other inks don't do that. So see, there's a, you might be able to see just a touch there, but not really. So that is the nice thing about these. They blend better than the inks do. Like when you're doing your edging and stuff, if you don't like something, you can reblend it. there's the pink on there. It's really overcast today too, so I'm hoping that the light is okay. For something like this, it's kind of hard to show it without good light. I'm going to just do this one like this so I actually get some on there. We're on there, and there's the pink. Not showing up as well on the camera as it is here, but still not as dark as what I saw on the videos. Okay, so now we're just going to do our purple. And that works pretty good. And I'm kind of blending it because I mixed this purple with red and blue. And as I first put it on, you could see a little bit of a difference in the red and the blue, but by just blending it, it blended right out and blended into a very nice color purple, so that's good. There it is on that color. And final one on black. Let's see if we kind of pounce it on there. Does show up much more, and ink's not going to show up at all, and this is really hard probably for you to see, but it does actually show up. I can see it here. It's light, but it shows up way more than ink would. Ink would just blend right in. So the colors look nice. They turned out really nice. Now, some of the things that they do with it is they blend them together. So let me just grab a piece of cardstock here. They say that they blend really well. And so let's see if these ones will blend. So let's do a blue with the purple. And they're blending, and I'm able to kind of work in the blend line and everything. Let's go with a color that's really contrasting and do the orange. And that's blending nicely. So they do. They blend. Now here, see how dark this is right here? Let's see if we can actually blend that out if we just blend it or add a little color, because if you use Distress inks, you know how hard it is to blend. It doesn't matter how much more ink you put on top, you are not going to blend that back in. And it's not completely blended, but it is blending, and I bet if I worked at it just a little bit more, it would blend. So they do. They blend nicely. And then once you put them on the paper, a lot of times they spritz them with water. Now this pink is drier, more to probably how it should be, and it's even blending nicer than the others, because the blue and the orange, I didn't think about it when I took those two to start with, but they were heavier. So let's take it and let's spritz it with some water. And then they dried it with their dryer, but we also can lift it off maybe with some, lift off some of it with your paper towel, or you didn't bring a stencil. Can you believe I didn't bring a stencil and it was on my list? Let's see. Well, let's just quick make a stencil then, right? Because they say once you put them on. Now, the ones where they were wiping them off, they gessoed their paper, and I did not gesso any of these papers. So I don't know. I mean, I know that gesso can make a big difference in being able to wipe things off. So this may not work as well as if I had gessoed my paper, but I don't gesso my paper, so I really would prefer to see what it's going to look like on non-gessoed paper anyways, because that's what I'm going to use. Okay, so we have a stencil, and they took a baby wipe and wiped through the baby wipes. So let me get this paper towel wet. And let's see if this blends back or not. It doesn't look like it really is. No, I'm not seeing it at all. So we'll try it again. I'll get a stencil and we'll try it. Maybe I'll do a gessoed paper. Now you could see what they try. We'll try a gessoed paper to see if it wipes off, because I'm going to have to stop and come back anyways. So what I'm going to do really quick is I'll get a piece of watercolor paper. It's not gessoed, but it's close. And I'll grab a stencil, and then I will be right back. Okay, I'm back, and I have a stencil, some baby wipes, and a sprayer that might not spray such a fine mist. And I'm going to move a little faster because they seem to move a lot faster than I do. So, we're going to, I have a canvas board here. I'm hoping maybe it's pre-gessoed. I don't know if it is or not, but we'll just kind of hope that it is. Let's get some of that on there. Let's put some orange with it. And by the feel of it, it feels like it's gessoed. There's a big difference between the way it was moving on my plain old cardstock and the way that it's moving on this canvas. So I'm going to guess that this canvas is gessoed. And in looking at it on the canvas, I'm thinking maybe I should put a little bit more pigment in them. Okay, so they would do that. Then sometimes they would like spritz some water on it. But they had like sprayers that did like droplets. And then they moved it around and it ran. Like that. So it's doing that. Let's try giving it a quick that, and that took it right off there. See? That's what they were doing. Okay, let's put some colors over here and try our stencil and see how that works. Grab some orange. Which I shouldn't put next to blue because it turns into brown. Oops, so let's grab some brown. Maybe kind of smooth them out a little bit. And then let's take our stencil and the baby wipe, which is perfectly dry. Good thing I checked it. I can't tell with these gloves on, because I could take the gloves off now. And then just and you have to keep moving your baby wipe so that the color that you've taken off doesn't move to the next place that you're working on. Which I constantly forget to do. And now that one you can see. So that worked the way that they did. And what else did they do? They smushed. Let me see, do I have some? I'll just take a piece of this. We're just back to regular cardstock again. So they had a craft mat, which was, you know, a non-stick craft mat. So they put their colors down on there. And they just took their pad and they just swooshed it on their craft mat like this. So we'll do some of the purple and some blue because they won't look too bad if they get blended together. Okay. So we've got a couple of our colors there. And then they sprayed it with water. Then they just took a piece of card and they just smooshed. And it works that way too. There we go. And then you can put more water on it. I like the way this looks, so I'm not going to do that. But they'd spray more water on it and then tip it all over the place. But I think that one turned out pretty, so I'm going to set that one aside right now. And we can try another one. And then they also put like lots and lots of water on. So we'll try that. But basically, I guess the thing is, I paid $2 for the containers. So that's $1 for the sponge, 25 cents for the, so we got $3. $1 for the paint is $4. 25 cents for the felt is $4.25. $5.25. And we had the colors. But so for $5.25, and I actually could have got, let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 out of one thing of paint. I could have got 12 colors. So I say that that's very worth it. So they sprayed it with a lot, and then they kind of did this, and then they smooshed again. And if you have a sprayer that does little dots, they did that quite a bit. And they would spray on it with the dots. That's some blue right there. That's pretty too. And then they would like wipe it off, or they'd let it roll around, or they would dry it with a heat gun. So I'm going to unplug the light. I'm going to grab some more of this so that it's wet, because they always had it really wet. And unplug the light, plug in the heat gun, and give it a dry and see what it does. Now they also did it like where they would rub it on, spray it with some water really quickly, and then dry it, and then it got some what they called oxidation. See how it's darker right here, how it's getting darker by just leaving the fluid there and then drying it with the dryer. So it does kind of change the color, and it looks like it makes it a little bit more opaque, almost brings out the color a little bit more than before it was dried. So let me turn the light back on. There we go. So yeah, so it kind of got the little marks right there. So I would say that it's not a fail. It is obviously not Distress Oxides. Might let you know if you might like Distress Oxides or not. I mean, see, look at this color. You do the smushing with the inks too, but this color, because it's got the opaqueness to it, you can't see through it. It really is, it does have a different, kind of just a different feel. So I think that this turned out okay. I think that I will probably play with these and use them. We will hope that these last without drying out, and if they do, then add some of your hand sanitizer and to the sponge underneath. Work it in really well, work it all together, and see if you can get it back. That's my only fear. And, you know, just to maybe even be safe, what you could do is just take one of your bags, stick it in the bag, squish the air out, and then, like this. Okay, these are terrible scissors, and I might be cutting it a little bit too close. to the edge here because I need some to bend down. But then where is, let me just take one of the bowls, see if this will work. Push that down there really well. And there. I guess you don't even have to have a bag. I was going to stick it in the bag and just put the top on it, but in that too, you could just stick it in the bag and then put the top on it. Then the bag would be sealed and that would be sealed. But maybe this piece of plastic, I think I'm going to do that. I think I'll put a piece of this heavy plastic over top of each one, and then I'm hoping that what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the plastic on 3, and I'm not going to put the plastic on 3. And then, and that way, because I'm not sure if the plastic might hold the seal, you know, it might hold this from pressing down on the rubber seal hard enough, and it might actually let air in there. Whereas this won't, but the plastic on top might help it stay. So that's what I'm going to do. So I am all over the place on this one. I had a hard time figuring it out. I thought I had it. I thought that, I really thought that tempera paint was going to be the one to use, and then it wasn't. I'm glad that I grabbed the Kids Craft paint because it was the perfect thing to use. And if you can't find the Kids Craft paint at the Dollar Tree, you can try it with the acrylic, with the white acrylic paint. My only problem is if it separates. I'm not so sure what that's going to do, like how you'll mix it back up again if it separates. So that's my only one, that's my only curiosity. And actually, if I was going to use that, what I might do is I might just leave it in the bags. And then you can just, you know, take the bag and open it up and just kind of use it out of the bag. I'm not exactly sure how, but you could. You could do that somehow. I think that that would keep it the best because, like I said, this has been at least 2 or 3 weeks, the blue one, and it hasn't changed at all. So it is still, it was still the same as it was when I stopped messing with it that day. So, but there we go. Those are our Distress inks, or no, our Distress Oxides, our Faux Distress Oxides. And I think that they turned out okay. So if you wanted to play with some and you really weren't sure whether you wanted to buy them or not, this gives you a different option and kind of lets you decide if this is something you might like or not. I think they are kind of cool. So, but there we go. Thank you very much for watching. I really do appreciate it. And for next week, I don't have next week figured out yet. So next week is going to be a surprise. We're going to make something that we already have everything in our stash to make it. So maybe we'll do some arting. We'll see. So for next week, it's going to be a surprise. We will use what we have. I really do appreciate you all stopping by. Thank you very much. I do appreciate it, and I hope that you all have an outstanding day. Bye-bye.